Hello everybody, John from Gaming in the Wild here, and November has arrived. With it came a sheet of snow here in Reykjavik, so I'm very happy that we have an absolutely packed month of new indie releases this month. I will have no shortage of things to play, from a precarious rolling egg platformer to a bizarre psychic baby simulator to parkouring through mysterious far future megastructures as a lonely malfunctioning robot. I normally pick a top 10 for these videos, but there were so many games coming this month I stretched it to 15. After that we'll run through some of the AA and AAA games that are coming out this month, and then we'll round things out with a now playing section where I'll fill you in on some of the indie gems that I've been playing across the last couple of weeks. As always, your likes on the video are appreciated to help other people find the channel. You can always subscribe to get more videos from me in your feed, and I will tell you all about this channel's amazing Patreon community in a while. So open up your wish lists, because there's going to be some stuff here you want to try for sure, and let's get into it. This is what we have to look forward to game-wise in November 2025. First up, we have Kentum on the 6th of the month. It's an interesting looking sci-fi survival game with a fresh illustrated art style and a side-on perspective. In Kentum, you play as Kent, a loner who is somehow still alive in the year 10,000, and you have the chill, low-key, low-stakes job of rebuilding the whole of civilization, basically. The devs describe this one as a craftervania, which I guess means that rather than discovering tools to access new areas, you're going to be scavenging materials to build them yourself. And I think that's something that I could be into, actually, at least if it isn't too grindy. There's always a fine line with crafting games when it can become too much of a time-intensive pyramid scheme, and the Steam page on this game does say that you'll be turning bone and wood into coal, machine scraps into metal sheets, of which you will no doubt need 20 and then 30 and then 40. So my hope here is that the traversal and the story keep the foraging and crafting interesting, and the game certainly does have an interesting premise. There are elements of automation in here too to spice up the crafting. That's Kentum, coming to Steam and the consoles on the 6th of November. Also on the 6th is Egging On, and you might have seen this game already on social media. It's gone viral a few times already, even just with a demo. It's the precision platforming game where you play as an egg, you roll along the ground and hop onto beams, you wobble up the beams to try and get higher and higher, and eventually escape the chicken coop. Of course, being an egg, you can expect a little bit of fall damage, to say the least, so there's definitely a little bit of Bennett Foddy getting over it DNA in here. And I have to say that precision platforming and weird feeling controls and breakability on your character seems like a match made in hell for me personally, but hey, Baby Steps was a big hit this year, so maybe these clumsy, difficult traversal games that are just made for streaming are on trend in 2025. I might well tune in to a stream or two myself just to see what it's all about, and if you happen to be in the Venn diagram of Masochist Gamer and Steam Deck owner, then it's your lucky day, because this is deck verified. That's Egging On, dropping and breaking on the 6th. I played a demo of Hypogea a couple of Next Fests ago, and it really stuck with me. Made and published by solo developer Charlie Wagner, it's a simple parkour game where you play as a broken humanoid robot that sparks to life at the bottom of a vast well. Your aim is simple: to go up and keep going up and see what is there. It turns out that you're at the bottom of a vast megastructure that stretches far above, with many floors, with beams, machines, pipes, hanging chains and so forth. And I found the parkour in this game to be really fun. You have a staff that you can mount to pole vault and jump further, you can hook it onto ledges to mantle up onto them, and there is a light story too. Exploring the dark corners of this world is rewarded by data capsules that tell you a little bit more about the world that you're in and how it ended up this way. You will encounter some other machines along your way, both friend and foe, but it's the lonely melancholia of this game that really sang to me. It's the vast echoing spaces, the emptiness of it all. It just really stuck to me, and I can't wait to play the full game. The demo left me wanting more. It's still up if you want to try it on Steam, and the full game drops on November the 9th. That's Hypogea. And as you can probably tell from that Hypogea review, I am a sucker for sci-fi exploration games, and especially when they're in space, actually. There's little that I like more than being set loose in a giant space station to explore the dark corners, scan panels, find gear, and get involved in a few zero-gravity scrapes. And Ambrosia Sky is a game that ticks all of those boxes. It's an ambitious space salvaging game where you explore a series of crumbling space stations. You'll be delving for resources, but also for information, as an infection is sweeping across the galaxy galaxy. And this is where this one gets interesting, because the contamination that has devastated all of these stations is immediately visible. It's like mold or moss or something like that, and it infests every space that you explore. You have to break it down, you have to sweep it aside and traverse it. Sometimes you have to use elemental stuff like electricity or fire, which can lead to some crazy impressive chain reactions where a cavern full of this moss is just going up in flames all at once. It's definitely a game that has a sandboxy sense of fun to it, and I played the demo on my ROG Ally, and this game was definitely pushing at the limits of what the handheld could run, so I will be curious if it's been optimized for deck and if it becomes deck verified, or if it's a game you have to play on your PC rig. Either way, the vibes are right, and I'll be watching the Metascore with interest when Ambrosia Sky comes to Steam on the 10th of the month. On the 11th, we get Lumines Arise, and I'm actually quite new to the long-running Lumines series. It's a Tetris-inspired block-dropping game, but rather than different shapes like in Tetris, they're all squares with different color combinations. You match the colors to clear portions of the screen. It's simple, it's easy to grok, and it's easy to sink hours and hours into as well. I recently played Lumines Remastered, and it took me tens of hours to complete the so-called basic challenge mode. It wasn't basic at all, let me tell you. But running that gauntlet set me up perfectly for Lumines Arise, and I have to say, it's really the presentation that sets these games apart. When you clear a certain number of lines, the blocks change color and form, and the music evolves through different tempos and genres, and the backdrop to what you're playing transforms from a pulsing club to a neon city to fish swimming underwater to plants growing in the jungle. If you've played Tetris Effect Connected, which is by the same developer, you'll know what I mean. And music is such a strong component of these games, combined with the visuals. I think it's related to like rave culture, club culture, and the old-fashioned super clubs with wall-high visuals. I don't even know if mega clubs like that still exist after COVID, but hey, at least we have Lumines Arise, which ups the ante in every way, musically, visually, and with the extravagant effects. It's a really great time. My only worry is that going so hard with the visuals could lead to an overwhelming, cluttered screen when it comes to the puzzle gameplay, but I remain optimistic for this one. We'll get to find out when it comes out on all formats on the 11th of the month. That's Lumines Arise. Also on the 11th is Possessors, and I've been publicly worrying about the Hyperlight Drifter and Solar Ash Studio Heart Machine for quite a while on this channel, because the much anticipated and long in development Hyperlight Breaker simply isn't good. The early access flopped, and despite continuing work, it's just not getting better fast enough. As predicted, we've seen 2 rounds of layoffs at the studio, which is a sad state of affairs. And right now, Heart Machine fans like me are just hoping that Breaker doesn't take down the studio entirely. But hey, at least we have Possessors. It's a side project game for the studio, published by Devolver Digital, which is always a good sign. It's a characteristically stylish for Heart Machine Metroidvania game in a post-apocalyptic demonic world, and you play as a character who's saved from death when they are possessed by a demon. They both keep you alive and lend you their power in a Faustian bargain, of course. So you will spend the game both looking for your family after this demon apocalypse and also doing the macabre aims of this demon, whatever they turn out to be. I really enjoyed the demo of this one. I love Heart Machine's trademark melancholic hemoglobin sci-fi goth aesthetic, or whatever we're going to call it, so I'm really rooting for this game and for this studio generally, and in that spirit I'm making Possessors my most hyped game of November 2025. Pick it up on PS5, Xbox Series and Steam on November the 11th. That's Possessors. And one of the more intriguing releases of the month is Goodnight Universe, brought to us by Nice Dream, the studio who designed the award-winning Before Your Eyes, that game you might have heard about that you control by blinking. Every time you blink in that game, you time skip through a person's life, so it was very innovative at the time. And Goodnight Universe is another first-person game with a unique control mechanic where you play as a psychic baby who just wants to chill with his family and grow up, but is wanted for sinister aims by a dodgy tech corporation. I really like that. It's a cool X-Man adjacent baby superhero plot. You can play this game on controller, but the twist here is that you can also play it using either a VR headset or a plain old webcam. The devs describe the twist here as an immersive camera as controller mode, and they say it expands the innovative use of camera-based technology that the team is known for. So I guess it's going to use some kind of eye tracking or head tracking. Sounds pretty interesting. There is a demo on Steam now if you'd like to give it a try, and it's coming to PS5, Xbox Series and Switch 1 and 2 on the 11th. You can play it anywhere basically. That's Goodnight Universe. On On the 12th, we get Winter Burrow, and as someone who is kind of over crafting games, the Winter Burrow demo really surprised me because it completely grabbed me. I think it does something pretty interesting with the genre by mixing together crafting and foraging with fairly full-on survival stuff. In Winter Burrow, you play as a little anthropomorphic mouse whose parents moved the family from their cozy rural burrow to the big city. They hit hard times, they work in factories until they tragically pass away. Now a homeless orphan, your mouse returns to the countryside burrow, which has fallen into disrepair, and their aim is simply to subsist and stay alive in the depths of a frozen winter. This means heading out into the cold to fuel the fire, to build your bed, to knit warm clothes, finding food and so forth, so we get that traditional crafting, foraging, shopping list kind of gameplay, but I think that the story gives it an emotional, urgent drive behind of it all. We really want this little guy to survive, and that makes things interesting, especially because your health meter, your temperature, and your food meters all tick down when you step out into the cold. I stopped playing the demo when I worked out the knitting stuff. I realized that I was just going to want to play this to the end. So I think I'll be willing to chop down some trees and chip some boulders to see where this story goes. That is Winter Burrow, coming to PC, Xbox, and Switch on the 12th of the month. That brings us to the halfway point of the month, and on the 17th we get Forestrike. I covered this game in my recent Next Fest roundup, link on the screen now in case you missed it. And Forestrike is a fun spin on the single-screen brawler, in which you play as a kind of a magic kung fu monk whose monastery is under threat from thugs and a greater power that's guiding them. To solve the situation, you battle through screen after screen of quite varied enemies actually, but the twist here is that you have a premonition ability that lets you play out a scenario a few times in your mind. You get to figure out the sequence of blocks, dashes, counters, reverses, and strikes that you need to take out a specific combination of enemies, and then when you've got it all nailed down, you execute it for real. This kind of thing can make you feel like a genius. I always love that moment in a game when you're surrounded by enemies one moment, and then after a few swift actions, they all just slump to the ground, defeated, while you stand there like a badass. That's definitely what Forestrike is going for. I played the demo and I felt like it ramped up in difficulty quite quickly. It also has a roguelike structure, and I kind of wish it was just a linear game, but there's something here for sure. Devolver are publishing this one and they rarely miss. It's coming to Switch and PC on the 17th. That's Forestrike. Also on the 17th is the Berlin Apartment, and I don't know about you, but I fairly regularly think about how the buildings that I live in and work in were built before I was born and will still be standing long after I'm gone. It's weird to think that we are so much more fleeting than the architecture we create, rent, own, and inhabit, and the Berlin Apartment is a game that is based on this feeling. It is set in a single flat in Berlin, the Berlin Apartment of the title, and it's a series of short stories in which we trace the lives of various people who live there over the course of an entire eventful century. Of course, that's going to include some good times and bad times, some domestic bliss, some drama, upheaval, and tragedy. And this being Berlin, I imagine it will also include some fairly catastrophic historic events as well. The gameplay itself seems to intertwine the various occupants' stories and lives with objects that you can find that pass down from tenant to tenant in the building and help to flesh out the stories of the people that you meet. I think this is going to be a slow, gameplay, light narrative experience. So if you're a Gone Home and Edith Finch fan, this might be one for you. It's coming to PC, PS5, and Xbox Series on the 17th. That's the Berlin Apartment. On the 18th, it's time for Kingdoms of the Dump. One aspect of post-human apocalyptic sci-fi that I'm personally a big fan of is wrecked city settings with collapsed buildings, overspilling trash, skeletons of cars and so forth, vast piles of detailed clutter repurposed into a scavenger's settlement. Kingdoms of the Dump is a pixel RPG in this kind of setting, inspired by SNES-era JRPGs. It's a top-down retro adventure with turn-based combat, including timed hits to keep you tuned into what's happening on screen, some platforming, some puzzle solving, some exploration, and plenty of characters to meet along the way. It also has a Mode 7 style overworld map, which I think will fill you with nostalgia, especially if you're of that age that remembers the Super Nintendo console. I think this game looks like it has buckets of charm. It's lovingly made with detailed pixel art and imaginative enemy design. Definitely one for the retro fans out there, and perfect for Steam Deck. That's Kingdoms of the Dump. It's PC only for now, but it's coming to Steam on November 18th. Also on the 18th is Morsels, and it's been a pretty weird time for Annapurna Interactive. After the whole staff quit, you have to wonder how that's been for the poor devs who signed the dotted line. One such studio is Furcula, based in Toronto, who are about to release their first game. That is Morsels, a wavy-looking top-down roguelike with creature collecting, puzzling, and twin-stick shooting. It has a very fresh and appealing visual style with a kind of CRT meets VHS vibe going on and a welcome dash of the surreal. I played the demo of this last Next Fest, and while I'm very much here for the visuals, I found the gameplay to be a bit mysterious. It's a bit obscure. I was finding pickups that I didn't seem to know what to do with and having to drop them at the level exit, but maybe the secrets will become clear over time. I'm very curious to see what the critical consensus on this one will be when it comes to all the consoles and PC on the 18th of the month. That's Morsels. Three more indie games to go, and on the 19th we get to enroll in Demonschool. This is another retro-style RPG with a bit of a different flavour to the other ones that I've mentioned this month. Demonschool focuses on the tactics side of things, with turn-based grid battles that you can rewind mid-fight, and a magic school social sim element between bouts. There are 15 characters that you can get to know, get into your party and use in battle. There are weapons to find, spells to learn, combos and synergies to uncover, and a light horror story, as the developers describe it. It also has a lot of silliness thrown into the mix, including adopting pets, finding lost lunchboxes, side quests, cursed objects, and all of that kind of thing. So I think it's kind of a young adult take on Hogwarts. We've known about this game for a while, and the signs have been good. It's been flagged by Ludo Narracon, Day of the Devs, and the London Games Festival during its development. So it seems like this game already has a lot of fans and anticipation building around it. It's the kind of game that could get a fan art scene going on online, if you know what I mean. That's Demonschool, coming to PC and all the consoles, including Switch, on November 19th. On the 24th we get Constance, and I know a lot of people are looking forward to this one. It's been in the last two Next Fests, and both times it got really good results. Constance is a Metroidvania with a focus on action platforming. You play a brush-wielding heroine who uses paint abilities for both combat and traversal. If you're a fan of Ori or Hollow Knight, you'll recognise a lot of this immediately. There's precision platforming where you're zipping from point to point in the air using a grapple ability, or racing your way up a shaft that's filling with water, wall clinging, jumping over spikes, that kind of thing. The devs say that they were aiming for a sense of flowing movement in this game through large, non-linear, interconnected map sections, and it also has a lot of Celeste vibes in there, in both the precision platforming and the themes of self-belief and mental health. That's Constance, coming to PC and all of the consoles on the 24th of the month. One more mouse game for the road. The last game that I have on this list is Randomice, which is also coming out on the 24th of the month. I've seen literally nobody talking about this game, but it won the Gaming in the Wild Next Fest poll a few fests ago. It's a very original proposition. It's a procedurally generated Metroidvania in which you play as a lowly house mouse who is exploring the house room by room, expanding their abilities as they go. So before long, you go from creeping around the skirting boards to dashing across high bookshelves and swinging from the chandeliers. It's very cute and charming, and it's a genuine pleasure to play. It has a simple sketchbook kind of art style, and there's a lot to discover here. I think Metroidvanias sometimes ration out new abilities incredibly slowly, maybe a little bit too slowly sometimes. So it was super refreshing to play that familiar structure compressed into tight half-hour levels. I did play and love the demo, but I do also have some questions, like what is the meta progression like? I'm curious about unlocks and how the game incentivizes us to keep playing through presumably quite similar levels if they're procedurally generated. So I wonder how they ration out new elements and variety to keep us engaged and excited about the next level. But the patrons of the show can't be wrong. All of the ingredients are here for this to be a late year indie banger. It's PC only for now, but it will be deck verified for handheld. That's Randomice. So that was our new indie games coming out in November 2025, but there's a lot more to talk about. There are some really cool ports coming out as well. On the 4th of the month, 1000 Times Resist finally launches on the PS5 and the Xbox Series. It's been a coincidental Switch platform console exclusive since it came out. 1000 Times Resist was, of course, my 2024 game of the year, and it's one of the best games as art ever made, in my opinion. It's the tale of a far future sisterhood of clones, which, for reasons that will become apparent, was spawned from a single mean teen called Iris. This means that the tenets of the Sisterhood Society are all kinds of messed up. Just trust me on this one, it's a must play, and it's really cool that PlayStation and Xbox players are finally getting a chance to try this game. On the 13th of the month, Yakuza Kiwame 1 and 2 are getting Switch 2 ports. I would love to see a huge influx of PS4 era games ported over to Switch 2. It really just seems like money on the table for developers. I mean, Xbox are already doing it with their publishing and porting program, and Ubisoft are all over it, even with current gen titles. But wouldn't it be really cool one day to see stuff like Horizon Zero Dawn, Last of Us, Days Gone, and Spider-Man running on the Switch 2? I don't think that's going to happen. Sony are basically running the table as the winners of the home console war, so maybe they'll just keep doing what they're doing. But hey, at least the Yakuza games are on their way over to Switch 2. The final port of note on the 17th is Indika, which is landing on Switch as well. This is of course the Russian Mad Nun simulator that puts you in control of the titular Indika. She's an innocent-seeming young nun who is weirdly shunned by her nun pals, as you see in her activities filling water buckets and so forth at the start of the game. But we do find out why pretty quickly. Indika hears voices and sees visions, and in this 4-hour game we'll go on a wild ride with her. I really like the artistry and ambition of this game. It was made by Russian developers who had to flee the country because it has some hot takes on Russian religion, so if you want something weird and wild and wonderful to play on your Switch 2, then give Indika a try when it comes to Switch 2 on the 17th of the month. There are of course also some AA and AAA games coming out this month, and FPS fans will be eating well with the annual installment of Call of Duty. This time it is Black Ops 7 on the 14th and Escape from Tarkov on the 15th. But the first one that is of interest to me personally is Hyrule Warriors Age of Imprisonment on the 6th of the month. It is the Muzuo Zelda spin-off where you bash hordes of enemies out of your way. I haven't played one of these since Hyrule Warriors on the 3DS, so maybe it's time for me to give the modern Muzuo games a try with Hyrule Warriors Age of Imprisonment. Also on Switch 2 on the 20th, we get the unknown quantity in the shape of Kirby Air Riders, the Sakurai-directed Kirby racing game. And I actually didn't know that Sakurai invented Kirby, age 19, and he's making his return to Kirby games with Kirby's Air Riders, which seems like an odd one. With Mario Kart already ticking the kart racing box on the Switch, I'm wondering if most gamers have a place in their collection for this one. But I'm not one to question Sakurai's magic touch, so let's see if it can extend to Kirby Air Riders, which looks, okay so far. We'll find out how it is on the 20th of the month, and it is a game that I will be particularly curious to see the Metacritic score for. I'm gonna guess right here on the channel in public it's an 82. Place your bets in the comments. What do you think Kirby Air Riders score will be when it comes out on the 20th of the month? PlayStation 5 is also getting an interesting AA game on the 16th. It is Where Winds Meet, which is a continuation of the Chinese push into the AAA video game space that began with Stellar Blade and Black Myth Wukong. Those were both single-player campaigns, and this one is a free-to-play MMORPG, which rings a lot of early alarm bells for me at least, but Genshin Impact and Honkai Star Rail have been phenomena, so who knows. That's Where Winds Meet, coming to PS5 and PC on the 16th. A little bit of news as well. As I was recording, I just decided to check the PS Plus games for November. It's a bit of a mixed selection this month. The headline item is Stray, the very famous cat game that needs little introduction, I think, but I will say that if you were put off Stray by the slightly odd discourse around that game, then don't be. It is more than just a cat game. I think that Stray is actually quite an amazing piece of science fiction in which you just happen to be a cat. I adored this game. I loved learning to think like a cat. We always look for human-sized doorways, but in this game, a simple, slightly ajar window can lead us into a new place entirely. You have to think about the world from a cat's eye point of view, and that was something that I really enjoyed doing. The setting was incredible too. We got to explore abandoned apartments in a cyberpunk city and discover a post-human robot civilization that lives in the dark and the cold, and deal with a strange infestation and some surprisingly fleshy, horror-adjacent chase sections. I think it's a wonderful game all round. It placed second in my Games of the Year list in 2022. Link on the screen now if you haven't seen that video. Also on the PS Plus free games docket are Totally Accurate Battle Simulator, known as Tabs, which is a physicsy comedy battle game, and EA's World Rally Championship 24, so you can grab all of those games for, free if you happen to be a PS Plus subscriber. There were a few new games added to the PS Plus catalogue as well. The Silent Hill 2 remake joined the lineup, which is perfect as I was about to buy that game. And also Yakuza Like a Dragon, Until Dawn, V-Rising, and Dusk Falls all join PS Plus as well, and I think that it's getting as good as Game Pass, That brings us to the end of the monthly roundup, but before I get to the now playing section, where I tell you about all the games that I've personally been playing in the last couple of weeks, I do want to tell you about the channel's Patreon. But wait, before you navigate away or skip to the next section, hear me out. You actually get access to the Gaming in the Wild Discord if you join the Patreon for just $1 a month. For $3 a month, you get bonus podcasts and all kinds of extra blogs and stuff, including me sharing sharing some of my YouTube thinking about thumbnails, about analytics, about pacing and scripting and editing and all of that kind of thing. So if you're a content creator, that could be interesting for you. I will put a link on the screen now if you'd like to come and join the patron community. There will soon be a Games of the Year vote for patrons of the channel to vote for the Games of the Year, and that will make its way into one of my videos. You can join in there. It's patreon.com/gaminginthewild. And a big thank you, as always, to my boss tier patrons, Shy Guy, King Champ, Keris, Nate, and Susanna Maria. Thanks very much, guys. You really helped me out. You helped me to keep making these videos, and I appreciate it a lot. And with that, let's talk about some of the games that I've been playing in the last couple of weeks. First up is Slots and Daggers. It's the latest in a new trend for fruit machine games, or slot machine games to our American friends. It's a slot machine combat roguelike made by the solo developer Friedemann, who you might remember from Summer House, link on the screen now for my review to that. In this game, you're looking down at the machine, which is embedded into a table. You spin the wheels. If you score a weapon, you attack the foe. Shields add defense, wands cast magic spells, and so forth. Three of a Kind scores a critical hit, and you'll get a cheer from the out-of-shot audience, so it has an esports at the bar vibe going on. So far so simple, but of course there is more to it than that. Each time you win a battle, you get some coins, which can be spent in the shop between bouts. You can buy charms, weapons, spells, and that leads to some interesting synergies, like an axe that only does damage if your shields are high, or poison weapons that stack status effects with every hit onto your opponent. We've had a lot of games that give us the fun of crafting a broken build, from Slay the Spire to Balatro to Clover Pit. And Slots and Daggers is a simple game to break. As you unlock more weapons, the way forward becomes very, very clear. But I'm not mad at it for being a comparatively short and simple roguelike. We don't have to dump 100 hours into every roguelike we play, so seeing the credits in 9 hours suited me fine. I've also heard about people who cracked the code in just 4 hours, so you know, your mileage may vary. It's quite a cheap game. I think it was just $10 or something, so check it out. It's on sale right now on Steam at the time of recording, so roll the dice and chance your arm on Slots and Daggers. I also want to talk about the Dark Queen of Mortholme, another very, very short game. This one is just half an hour long. In this game, you play as the final boss of a pixel art Souls-like, the terrifying Dark Queen of the title. You sit on the throne, you rule your kingdom with an iron fist until a tiny hooded warrior scampers into your throne room to challenge you. You kill him with a single blow, leaving the broken body in a pool of blood on the ground, and take the throne again. But soon enough, that same warrior returns. In fact, they just keep coming back no matter how many times you kill them. And not only do they keep coming back, but they keep getting stronger. This makes an interesting little psychological journey, like what does this mean for a tyrant who has ruled alone for eternity to suddenly have this irrepressible challenger? I like how it breaks the fourth wall of video games and makes us question what the life of a boss might be like. I won't spoil how it all turns out, but I will recommend the game. It has a couple of genuinely touching moments, and it's only $5. Even if it's only half an hour, I say support a solo developer and check it out. You can finish it in a single sitting. That's the Dark Queen of Mortholme. And the final game that I'm playing, this is actually the game that I'm playing the most of right now, is Battlesuit Aces. I gave it a shout out in last month's Month Ahead video, but I've been playing it and it is really, really good. It's from Trinket Studios, the makers of Battle Chef Brigade, and rather than this being a magic school social sim, it's like a journey through the stars with card-based battling. You play as the leader of the Battlesuit Aces, and you have to assemble a squad of mech warriors in your social sim element. You can hang around in the ship, talk to your colleagues, get their backstories, craft upgrades for your mechs, and then take them out either on side missions, in sim sessions, or out into the story. There is an overworld map that you can cruise to different planets. Each one has a little episodic story that will climax in a battle. And the thing that I'm really loving about this game is the presentation. It has this really fresh manga anime style. Everything is voice acted. The music is really upbeat and positive. I think this is a really good little game, so I recommend it to anyone that likes card battlers and that kind of thing, and especially anyone who checked out Battle Chef Brigade, Trinket's first game. That's it for this video, and if you've stuck around to the end, then thanks very much. You can always join the Patreon to support me and get bonus content. Please do so if you can afford $1 or $3 or $5 a month. Patreon.com/gaminginthewild. And until the next one, take care of yourselves and each other, and bye-bye for now.